Hello, and welcome back to another OGarden video. Now, in this video, I'm going to be talking about some maintenance things that you have to do like every week or every month that you probably don't know about. I'm also going to be sharing some video instructions on some of the more advanced system things in the control panel. For example, the watering systems and the lighting timetables. And finally, I'm also going to share some plant tips that will help your plants to grow more than they might be already. So I hope you find this video helpful, and let's get right into it. So, the first thing that I've done that supposedly counts as an upgrade is adding this big water tank. And if you look in your own OGardens, then, well, you'll know that the water tank was quite a bit smaller, maybe only like this big. And so that means that you'd have to top it up with water like every half week or week. But if you had like a full tray and then a full wheel and it's watering like every day or every other day, the water level would drop significantly, and that's what I found when I first got the OGarden. But then we got this bigger water tank, which is basically just a bigger storage box than the one that it came with. And now we only have to fill it up like once every week and a half or even once every 2 weeks, and it just means that we don't have to worry about it running out of water as often. So I'll put a link in the description of where you can find one of these and the right size, but yeah, it was a pretty good thing we added. So, if you look at your OGarden, or you see my OGarden here, you can see there's quite a bright light here, and if you're just sitting in your sitting room or your kitchen or wherever you have your OGarden, the light can be quite blinding as such if you look towards it, and it can make quite a bright kind of part of the room. So what I decided to do was to get a cover to put on the front. And if you can see, there are these little black specks. These are little velcros that we've stuck onto the OGarden. And then got this big piece of plastic that basically, when put on the front like this, blocks out most of the light, and it actually reflects the light back into the OGarden. So it helps quite a lot, and it also stops the light from spreading out into the rest of the room. And so it's no longer this bright object, it's just quite dim, and it's because the light is so bright, even though this is like a 95% dark piece, you can still see into the OGarden and see all the nice plants through the piece, so that's good. And we just put little bits of Velcro on, and then stuck the bits onto this, and then you can just attach it like this and leave it, and then at any point, like I've been doing through most of my videos, you can just take it off like this. And so yeah, if you want to do that, I've attached a link to this in the description as well. And when it arrives, it's in big square, like rectangular sheets, so you have to cut out a circle that's the size of your OGarden, otherwise it won't fit. So I hope this is a helpful add-on. So the next point we're going to be looking at is a maintenance point, and that is to take the entire wheel off and then to clear the tray area underneath of any leaves or debris that have fallen down. So, taking off the wheel is pretty much how it sounds, but if you have a full wheel, it can be really, really heavy. So don't try it unless you're really strong, or if you get 2 people to help, then that's best. But mine's about half empty now, because I just did lots of harvesting last night. So I'm going to try and do it on my own. So don't lift the pods, but just lift the outer bits. And do it as carefully as you can, and when you lift it, you want to lift it up above the rim at the bottom, and being careful not to like bang the light or anything. So just like that basically. So now we've taken the wheel off, and you can see there's quite a lot of leaves and dead bits that have fallen down. So just gather them all up and throw them in the bin. And first of all, this will just keep it clean for starters. And it will also, if you see here, this is where the water comes out for the wheel watering, and sometimes leaves can get stuck in front of it or up inside it. And so it's important to keep it clear so that doesn't happen. And you should do this, if you have a full wheel of plants, you should do this at least once a week, or once every 2 weeks if you don't want to do that. But just make sure that you're aware of it, so that if a problem does occur, then you think to think that this might be the problem, and then you can go and fix it. There, so it's all clear, and you might see quite a lot of dirt and stuff, but that's just because it just watered, so there's water here now. So, at the same time that you've taken the wheel off, there's another small job that you can do. So, if you see here, there are some screws, and these ones here are the water sensors, and so when the water fills up and then gets to here, and these sense them, it tells the program, stop, there's enough water now. And so the program stops and it doesn't overflow. And if you're wondering what these screws down here are, well, our water sensors used to be here, but we had some problems with the watering where the water was filling up, it was getting to here, and then it was stopping, as it normally does, but the plants were using up so much water that that level wasn't high enough. So we moved the sensors to this position here, and then just got some spare screws to fill in the holes, and now it means the water can fill up all the way to the higher up water sensor, and the plants get much more water, and we haven't had any more problems since. But something that you have to do, even if you haven't moved up your water sensors, is just every week or two just get a little dry cloth, or even when the problem occurs, get a little dry piece of towel or cloth and just kind of wipe them and make sure they're dry, because sometimes there's a little kind of glitch that can happen where it thinks that it thinks the water level is full, but it turns out that it's actually not, and it's just maybe got a bit of water stuck in it or something, and then that can cause all your plants to dry out in the wheel, and it can lead to all kinds of other problems. So just if your plants start suddenly drying out in the wheel and you have no idea why, then maybe try wiping your sensors and checking in demo mode, and that might fix your problem. Okay, so now that we've done the more physical side of the maintenance, I'm now going to tell you about some things you can do just using the control panel that are quite helpful to know. So first of all, we're going to talk about being able to pause different programs. So say you were going away for a few weeks or months and your seedling cabinet was empty, just pretend that's empty, and you didn't want it to water every week and waste water and light and electricity, but you were going to have plants in the top wheel and you wanted them to keep being watered. Well, there's a way of pausing the tray program and just letting the wheel program carry on. So that would turn off the light and stop all watering in the tray, but keep the light and watering system in the wheel completely the same. The only thing you'd have to make sure is that you had someone to come and top up your water tank. So I'll just show you how to do that now. So, to pause a program, first of all, what you want to do is just click any button to start this up, and then you want to click on the far left-hand button, so the one below the little power symbol. Then you get to this menu that says Tray and Wheel, and say you want to pause the tray program. So you press the middle button, which is below the tick, and then you get this option, Start, Pause, or if you go down, Resume, or Program 2. So we're going to click Pause, and if we click that, Pause, tick comes up like this. And now if we go down to the tray area, the light has gone off and it won't water anymore. So we've now paused the tray program, but the wheel program's still active, as you can see. And so that will stop all watering and lighting in this tray until we click resume. And you see on the main home screen, it then crosses out the number of days we're on, like this. And then to resume it, you just click the power button again, click the tick when it's selected on tray, and then instead of clicking pause, you click resume. And now the lights come back on and the watering program will continue as usual. And to pause the wheel program, if you wanted to do that, it's exactly the same, but instead of clicking on tray, you just click on wheel, and then you know what to do, click pause. And now if we go up, you see the light has turned off and the watering will stop as well. So just if you did want to know how to do that. The next thing I'm going to show you is really, really helpful for the seedling cabinet, and I use it almost every month. And that is, say the plants in here, well, the program says you're supposed to move them up after about 21 days. But I found that, well, if you see all these plants here, they've been in here for about 24 days. And most of them are still quite small. If you see like this coriander plant, it's hardly bigger than a seedling. And so once it gets past like 22 or 23 days, it waters like every day or every 2 or 3 days. And that can often become too much for these, and they get waterlogged, and then algae grows and it starts to rot. And so I think, how do I stop that? And so if you go to your control panel and you click on the power button, you find when it's selected tray, and then you click the tick, and then instead of clicking start or pause or resume, you go down, go past resume, till it says program 2. And then you select that, and then you go from no, and then you click yes, and then this will ask you what day you want it to start on. So when you start the tray program, it automatically starts from day 1, it waters, then 12 hours later it waters again, and then from then on it waters once every 5 days, and then once it waters at the 5-day mark, it then waters after 4 days, and then after 3 days. And so I want it to start on day 2, because then it won't water, and then the next time it will water is like 5 days from then. And so that means it'll give them a chance to dry out and it won't waterlog them. So I then go to day 2, and then I click yes. And then if I go back to the main menu, it will now say day 2, even if they've been there for like 25 days or even 30 days. And then if we go back here, it all just stays the same, but now it won't water, it will think that it's on day 2, and so it will water as if you just started the program, pretty much, a day later. So yeah, that's really helpful. So yeah. If you have the problem of tray like overwatering, you can also, if you click on this right button underneath the little tool symbol, and then you click on watering, and then you click on tray, the standard will be the like set program that it comes with. But if you scroll down to choice and click yes, you can then choose how often it will water. And then, so I've got it on 4 days at the moment, so that means it will, like, until you reset the whole program, it will only water once every 4 days. So that's quite helpful. And if you click modify, you could choose to have it water once a day, or 2 days, or 3 days, or 4 days, and it goes, yeah, all the way up to once every 9 days if you had like really small plants. So that's quite helpful if you don't want to reset it back down to like 2 or something. And then that also means that if you go back to the main menu, it stays on however many days they've been in there. So that's just another option you can do. Now, the next thing I'm going to mention is quite a basic thing, quite basic, you probably all have read it in the instruction manual, and that's how to go into demo mode. And that's quite helpful. For example, how I said earlier, how sometimes the water sensor can think that the water level's full, but it's actually not. The way to test if the water's working, on the home screen you can go under the toolbar, and when you're here you scroll all the way down to system, and then you click on system, and then you can click on demo mode, and that will basically turn off all the lights and all the watering systems for both things, just temporarily, just while you're on demo mode. And then from here you can then test the lights in both areas, you can turn the lights off, you can test the watering in the tray, and you can test the watering in the wheel. And these little ticks tell you whether the sensor in the tray has detected that it's full, if the sensor in the wheel has detected that it's full, and then this is detecting if there's a leak, and this is detecting how level it is. So, like I said earlier, sometimes the water sensor in the wheel tray can have a bit of a glitch and think that the water level is full when it's actually not. And the way to tell if this is the case is to go into demo mode, like I've just shown you, and if you see the wheel sensor has this little like warning triangle, that means that the water sensor is saying that the water level's full. And often that can just be normal, the water level might be full, but if that little symbol comes up and you look in the wheel water tray, and for example here, it's completely dry, there's absolutely no water here, and yet it says it's full, and so unless you wipe the sensors like I showed earlier, it just won't water anymore and your plants will just dry out and dry out and dry out. So yeah, if your plants are drying out, then this might very well be the reason why. So go into demo mode and have a look. And when this problem occurs, like I said, just get a bit of cloth and wipe the sensors. And there we go. I've just given the sensors a good wiping with this cloth, and now it's gone back to being ticked, and so the problem is fixed, and it will keep watering as usual once I exit demo mode. And then to exit demo mode, all you do is hold down any button just for a few seconds, and then it will reset and everything will go back to normal. So that can just be quite helpful if you want to figure out a problem, or you just want to water it straight away and you don't want to wait for the system. And if you want to actually see the tray here being watered, well, it comes out of here like I showed earlier, and you can test if the water's working by just pressing the water wheel button in demo mode, and then you can see here now all the water's gushing out into the tray. And you can see the water level rising up and about to touch the sensor. And now the sensor has said, okay, it's full, and so the watering over here has now stopped. And if we go down to demo mode, the little triangle has now come on, but it's right in this case because the sensors really have detected the water. Now, another important thing is to make sure that your OGarden is level, because if it's not level, then all the watering will go badly, and half your plant, like in the tray, half your plants will get loads of water and half your plants will get hardly any, and in the wheel it will just make the whole thing go badly, and you might use up too much water or too little, and just you've got big problems. So make sure you level all the four corners using these little black levelers. You can see there's one in every corner. Now, my last two tips about plant welfare. One of them I've said in previous videos, and that's the importance of spraying your plants. So spraying the seedling plants and also spraying the plants in the wheel, because this will they'll enjoy it first of all because it will be like they're being rained on, and these plants never get it because, well, obviously they're inside, so they'll really enjoy it, and it'll just keep them healthy and stop too much dust from settling on them. So spray your plants, they'll love it. Now, the next tip I'm going to be sharing with you is the importance of thinning the plants, so making sure that there's one, maximum 2 plants per pod. And so this goes for things like Swiss chard, which is what these are, things like kale, spring onions, especially only want 1 per pod. Then I grew chili peppers, you only want 1 per pod with those. And then things like basil, 1 or 2. Parsley and coriander, you can get away with 3 or 4. And then things like lettuce, for example, these ones here, you can see they're wild and super bushy, and this is like 6 or 7 plants in each. So lettuce are okay to have lots of plants in each because you harvest them fairly fast, and so they don't use up like a load of nutrients. But things like the Swiss chard and the kale and Swiss chard, which is what this is, if you have lots of plants in like this one, then it can, well, you can see here there's quite a lot of dead leaves and the plants aren't growing that well. But then if you see this one where there's just 1 plant, it's growing really well, got loads of new growth, and it's much bigger than these because it has the whole pod to itself. So when thinning, you want to look for the weakest and smallest plants. So in this case, this orangey one, it looked really strong, and this yellow one also looks really strong. But the other ones are quite small, and so I'll cut out all of the smaller ones. And for example, it's quite nice, it's still really healthy, so I'll just add this to a salad this evening and then we can eat it. So don't feel the need to throw out your thinnings, just thin them down to the biggest and strongest, and then you're good. And it is often easier to thin out when they're quite small rather than letting them grow big like this. But when you put stuff in, you kind of forget about it quite soon. So that's why I only saw it kind of today that I needed to thin these. And sometimes, if you see here, there's 3 quite big plants, and so you often have to make a sacrifice and choose which one you want to go for. So in this case, I think I might go with the big red one and the big orange one, and then cut this kind of yellowy one out. And there we go. And then you also want to cut off all the dead leaves, just so that it looks nicer and it will help with new growth. And it will just kind of give it a fresh start. And once thinned out, it will really perk up, most likely, and then you'll get nice harvests. And if you see in this case, there's 2, and you can probably just about cope with 2, but any more than that and it will just get much too bushy. So there you go, you can see it's now looking much clearer compared to this bushy end one. So remember, try and thin it to 1 to 2 for the bigger plants, but then leave lots of plants in each for things like lettuces and maybe coriander or parsley. Yeah, I hope this thinning session you found quite helpful. So, if you're wondering how the pods actually pick up the water, well, the white containers, which is this thing here, it goes down, as you can see it's doing here, and the water goes in through these 3 little holes, and you can see it's just about to do it now. So you can see the water's now going in through the 3 little holes, and if you look actually inside the pod, you might just be able to see that the water's starting to come in, and that will be actually being absorbed by the pods there. But thank you for watching. So we've done all the things that we set out to do in the first place, and you can see the wheel now is looking absolutely magnificent. And I hope you found this video helpful, and if you did, hit that subscribe button and tap that like button to show me that you like this video. And yeah, subscribe if you're new, and thank you for watching, and goodbye.